Hello and welcome back to the MSBaithak podcast. I'm your host DD, and joining me today once again is my friend and your co-host Vedant. On this episode, we'll be talking about the Formula E weekend in London. So let's grab some chai, take our seats, ready opinions, and dive right into the conversation. Stoffel Vandoorne might just win a Formula E championship after all the bad luck he's had. Uh, you know, and the 30 points haul that he had this weekend is enough to comfortably take him across the finish line. If he wanted, he could wrap up this championship with one race to go in round 15 in Seoul, Korea.
Well, hopefully you haven't jinxed him by saying that, but yeah, I mean, yeah, he has
Only if that works.
as you said, a 36 point lead. So even if he DNFs and Mitch Evan, who is P2 right now, wins, he'll still have 11 point
Yeah.
lead, right? So that's enough. That's enough for Stoffel Vandoorne to cruise to the championship title. And I mean, he just needs to do his part, right, and not get into any accidents, and just get into the duels, qualify top 5, top 4, and yeah, just
Qualify top 8, finish top 6.
Yeah,
That's enough.
absolutely.
Yeah, that is. I mean, Mitch Evans, Edo Mortara. I mean, Jev is out of the championship contention. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Jev is not going to get all of 58 points to beat Stoffel Vandoorne next weekend or next race weekend.
Yeah, he can't.
Right, because
there's no 58 points available. I don't think 58 points.
You have 2 points for pole. You have point for fastest lap.
And 25 points for
Or 3
win.
points for pole, something like that, and 25. So you can, over one race, you can get 29 points,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that is what I'm saying, 58 points, right? Because Jev is 57 points behind
Okay.
Stoffel
Right,
Vandoorne.
right.
So Jev is out of the
Yeah.
conversation. So Mitch Evans and Edo Mortara will need at least a 29 point race on the first round,
Yeah.
at least, round 15, to put themselves into contention and not let Vandoorne just like run away with it, or 2 really good races. And to have 2 really good races on the same weekend is a miracle usually in Formula E. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's only a handful of people who've managed that really, and one of those people this weekend was Jake Dennis, who we'll talk about in a minute. But I remember, earlier this year we talked to Jack Nichols, and he wanted Stoffel Vandoorne to win, and we talked about all the bad luck he's had and whatnot. But yeah, this is gonna be huge for him. Technically a Formula One, I don't want to say reject, but he never really got a fair shot in Formula One.
Yep.
There's a lot of hype around him. There's been a lot of hype around him ever since he's been in Formula E. He's always a winner of Fan Boost. So clearly, the fans love him, and I think this is going to be huge for Stoffel Vandoorne at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a redemption arc for Stoffel, which has taken a little too long, in my opinion, because obviously, as you pointed out, to his bad luck, and not his bad luck, but just the situation around him. Right, in season 6, he was up against Da Costa, who absolutely dominated the Berlin saga in that season, right?
Yeah.
Right. And even then, Stoffel was the only one who could challenge Da Costa. And last season, obviously, his teammate won, and he had a bunch of bad luck. But this season, his teammate is nowhere, and he is absolutely dominating it. And yeah, it will be one of the best feel good stories in motorsport in the recent time.
Yeah, and if Vandoorne does win, you're gonna feel for Jaguar and their drivers. 2
Yeah.
years in a row coming close to winning the championship, and getting beaten by the same team over again. So definitely does not feel great. But let's talk about Jake Dennis. All right,
Absolutely.
we all know about Stoffel Vandoorne. We all know that he's about to win the championship, and we're hoping for him to win the championship as long as he does not do a double DNF next weekend. So it should all go okay as long as it is kept under control. We all saw what happened last year, and definitely we don't want
Yeah.
that happening this year. But we also want, the championship to go to the last race. But let's talk about Jake Dennis. What a weekend for this man. Got denied a double win, a double dub by Lucas de Grassi towards the closing stages of the race. But this man got 51 points this weekend. 51. Uh, both poles, both fastest laps, a win and a second place. That just goes to show that that it, I at least I feel that way now, is that the car was like, they had a good package, they just couldn't put it together over the weekend.
Yeah.
Whether that was setup, operationally, whatever it was, because this is not the first time he was on the podium, right? He's been on the podium before in the season. He scored good points, but this was a massive weekend and a home race too. Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, see, Avalanche Andretti have been the underdog, sorry, for this season, and obviously they were not the best teams in the previous seasons. When they were BMW, when Gen 2 started, they were championship contenders, but that just fell apart very quickly. But yeah, I think a win, a second place, both poles, both fastest laps, it could get like couldn't get any better apart from that. It could.
It would
Yeah.
have been it would have been a clean
Yeah.
sweep of not. I mean, he had a clean sweep in the first race. It would have been a clean sweep over a weekend, and
Ye-
probably the first.
Yeah, first
ever.
ever, absolutely. Because
There have been people who have won both races in a weekend, but I doubt there's been a person who's had a clean sweep. What is it called? A grand slam. Across the entire weekend.
absolutely, and obviously that is in part thanks to the new qualifying format. But like about that, we have talked enough about that. But
Yeah,
but Jake
yeah.
Dennis absolutely brilliant. I don't know if he has a contract for next season or not. But talking about silly season now, if at all Nick DeVries or any other most likely it will be Nick DeVries if anyone goes from Formula E to the Aston Martin seat. If Nick DeVries does go to the Aston Martin seat, Jake Dennis is the man for the Mercedes turning to McLaren seat.
I don't think McLaren has signed. I think Stoffel Vandoorne is going away.
Yeah,
I
Stoffel
don't
is going
think they're
away.
Keeping.
Stoffel is joining,
Yeah,
I think, Nissan.
and I don't think Nick has signed a contract with McLaren either yet, from what I remember.
Oh right, yeah.
So they're yet to sign a driver, and signing Jake Dennis will be huge. I mean, technically McLaren are also Nissan, right? It just won't. They'll have the Nissan
Yeah.
powertrain in them. Yeah, I mean, for sure, it'll be a good. It'll be a good family to join, because that will open up a lot more opportunities for him almost. And he might have Felix Rosenquist alongside him, racing again in Formula E.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about Felix in the IndyCar podcast, but what a weekend for him as well. Like,
Abs- yeah. I mean, it's getting harder and harder for Zach Brown to get Felix away from IndyCar almost.
Yeah.
It seems, but we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about Jean-Eric Verne. I was in New York, and we talked about how bad of a weekend he had, and talk about another 0-point weekend for Jean-Eric Verne in a row. For someone who was the most consistent driver, other than probably Van Dorn, until round 10, which is, after that was New
Yeah.
York, he's had 4 ducks in a row. 4 ducks in a row for a man like Jeff is unheard of almost. And you got to feel for that guy, He was looking forward to getting a win, frustrated that he didn't have a win, but was second in the championship, and now is outside of championship contention, basically.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's disastrous. Like, out of those 4 ducks, 2 of them were DNFs, and he qualified pretty well
Yeah.
in round 14, right? He qualified in the top 4, I believe, in round 14, and or top 8 at least. He was in the duels for round 14, but yeah, absolutely disastrous for his run for a third title. But Jeff being Jeff, we know that he'll be back again next season. He'll be fighting for that title next season, and with the new cars and the new everything, it will be like Jeff could be one of the guys who adapts the fastest.
Absolutely. And someone else who had a disastrous weekend in London was another championship contender, Edo Mortara.
Yeah,
He was, I think, 11 points behind Stoffel Vandoorne going into the weekend, and now he sits 41 points behind Stoffel Vandoorne, 2 ducks in a row for Edo Mortara. Oh my God.
and not just the 2 ducks. He only scored 5 points in New York as well.
That is true. Yeah, that is also very true. So it's been rough for the championship contenders besides Stoffel Vandoorne. Things are finally
Yeah,
breaking his way.
I think Stoffel is getting all the luck that he lost in the last couple of seasons, right? And
Yeah,
like fair share to him, fair play to him because he has been absolutely spot on with his performances, with his consistency, and he has not put a foot wrong except sometimes in qualifying. But other than
yeah.
that,
Except
other than
sometimes in
that, his
qualifying.
race pace, his driving has been brilliant.
Yeah, but other than that, obviously terrible weekend for Mahindra, 0 points, 2 DNFs for Oliver Roland. So let's not talk about that. Let's talk about two outstanding performances from this weekend. And obviously, when I'm talking about outstanding performances, we've already covered half of those. But two that really stood out this weekend were the two performances from the rookies. Oliver Askew finally delivering to the caliber, of the car, especially this weekend, given how Jake Dennis performed, and finishing P4 in round 13. And we all wanted to see Oliver Askew race in Formula E, coming from IndyCar. We all were, very hopeful that he would elevate the sport a little bit more. Bring his competitive nature from IndyCar, his skills from there, and really, really give everyone a harder time. And we finally saw a glimpse of that in round 13. And I hope Avalanche Andretti Andretti is able to get that car together more often, so that we can see what Oliver Askew and how he can deliver weekend in weekend out. Because I mean, when he moved from IndyCar, obviously he had that concussion, and there were doubts over what he would do going forward. But for me, at least, having started following IndyCar at that time, uh, it was huge news, and I still want him to do well and see how he can measure up against the likes of Jev, Lucas Degrassi, Stoffel Vandoorne, and all of these guys who've grown up basically in the European ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Askew also was in the top 6. Like, yeah, he did qualify for the duels in round 14 as well. So, apart, like, had he not DNF'd, he could have scored a handful of more points in round 14 as well. But like we have seen his pace throughout the season. It's been brilliant. He has absolutely shown what he is capable of, and yeah, he just needs the car consistently, and because he has always been on the brink of a P10 result, and in the race, but he has now finally delivered in terms of qualifying as well over the past few rounds, right? So yeah,
Yep, and the second performance is obviously Antonio Giovinazzi, shocking everyone during qualifying this morning. And he was running in the top 10 for a long time until he had that technical infringement. But I mean, Sergio said the camera also seemed to be having a better weekend in general. But that flash of pace from Gio, that is what we've been waiting for, and it was almost becoming, you're almost starting to forget about Giovinazzi. Obviously, he never had a very standard performance in F1, and there were doubts of how is he going to measure up, and those doubts didn't go away in Formula E. But this morning, I mean, people were shocked, but they were
yeah,
pleasantly shocked. They were happy about it, especially given that it was the Dragon Penske Autosport car, which hasn't done well at all and has been at the very bottom of the
yeah,
grid.
absolutely. And I mean, here's the thing, even if he overused, like even whatever the technical infringement was, and even if he has been struggling with his energy management for him to finally get that pace right in qualifying, not the race trim, not the energy management stage, but in qualifying when you have full power, when you don't have to save energy basically. For him to get that right was very, I think, a very important step in terms of his progression in Formula E. And yeah, I mean, he's obviously a very experienced driver in motorsport in general, so he could, uh, just source his experience from other series and channel it in Formula E. But it took some time. It took almost a season, but I think this could be a massive, massive stepping stone for Gio, and in the Penske as well. And talking about the Penske, his teammate Sergio Sette Camara was in the duels in race in round 13, which is great news for them. Uh, Obviously, Sergio has shown some flashes of pace again in qualifying and sometimes in the race, but never really delivered because the car is not uh, contending material, and there have been issues really. But yeah, again showing some pace.
But yeah, first point for him.
Yeah,
this
so
weekend
again,
season.
showing some pace, showing that he's still there, showing that he, the Penske team matters in the sport basically. But yeah, good result for like good result as a whole for the Penske. Both the drivers making some sort of big breakthrough.
Absolutely, and we have 2 weekends to go.
1 week to go.
before
2 weekends to go. Yeah,
uh,
sorry, my bad.
Yeah, before we see the end of this championship. Obviously, this is the Gen 2 era coming to an end, and there's a lot that has happened. Um, I, Aesthetically, yes, I'm not looking forward to the Gen 3 era, but I'm excited to see, what the sporting regulations bring, and obviously we'll talk about it in the future podcast. There's a long break between season 9 and season 8. Season 8 ends in August this year, and season 9 does not start until next year. So a lot of conversations will be had. There'll be a lot of testing that will happen in the meantime. So it's not like there won't be news from it, but going into the last weekend for Formula E, Vedant, what are your predictions? What are your thoughts?
Well, going by the standards of season 2, I really do think that the drivers second and third in the championship will score some points so that they are mathematically in contention. But I mean, I don't expect them to score enough points to offset uh, Stoffel's lead, right? Because that's impossible, basically. But stay within 20 points or something, whatever. If that's possible.
Keep us interested. Keep us
Yeah,
interested
exactly.
for the last race.
But
basically.
I mean, I'm saying that because Formula E Gen 2 has been like that, and we have followed Gen 2 almost entirely. We didn't follow Gen 1. We don't know what happened in Gen 1, basically. But yeah, Gen 2 has been brilliant, and the cars have been one of the most beautiful open wheel cars we have seen, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like single seater, close.
That is true.
Yeah,
Technically not
single-seaters.
open wheel, but single seaters. That is true. I mean, I did like the silhouette
Exactly.
of this car, and it's easily recognizable, and it looks absolutely fantastic in person. That is for sure. But yeah, thank you, Vedant, for joining me once again. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm excited to see how this championship battle goes down. How many people DNF before Stoffel is allowed to win after starting P22 in 2 weeks' time.
Well, it's not the old qualifying format, Divya.
But yeah,
He won't start P22 then.
you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you, and as always, we'll catch you at the championship finale.